Welcome to the Millennial Network Podcast. Now your host, Coach Danny Renee.
What's up, y'all? Coach Danny Renee here, and this is the Millennial Network Podcast. We have here Shaila Samone, who is the founder of A Goddess Garden Birth, who is a full spectrum birth professional and trained doula. So Shaila, out from Atlanta. My first question is, it's funny because I was having a conversation with my brother and his wife, and I was like, what really is a doula? So can you explain to us, like, what's a doula?
So a lot of people don't really know exactly what a doula is, but a doula is a trained birth professional. So our sole focus is on birth. All of the education and training we do is specifically around the body, birth, and the birthing experience. So as a doula, for a client, you would have me ideally through your entire pregnancy. So I like to consider myself like a pregnancy ride or die kind of thing.
Mhm.
If you have a question or a concern at 3 o'clock in the morning and you want to ask your doctor, but it's late or you're freaking out about something, just pick up the phone and call me. If you have to go to an appointment and you don't want to be by yourself, but your partner isn't available, pick up the phone and call me. Literally anything that you need, whether it be information or just general support throughout your pregnancy, that's what I'm here for. And also during our time together, we're going to be, of course, prepping for your birth. So, what do you want your birth to look like? What kind of things do you know for sure that is important to you to have during your birth? What kind of things are a no for you during your birth? How do we advocate for ourselves within that birthing space, within that generally it's a hospital setting, but in general, how do we advocate for ourselves when it comes to this care that we're having to receive for this time in our lives? So I'm with you through all of that. I'm with you through the birth itself. So when you are in labor, I'm right there with you. I'm helping you move your body. I'm helping baby engage with your pelvis and helping baby come out. I'm right there the whole time. And then afterwards, as a postpartum doula, I'm still by your side. Whether you need just someone to look after the baby while you get some sleep, call me. Whether you just want to have a conversation with an adult, call me. So anything that you could need throughout the entire process, that is what a doula is here for.
Wow, so like the doula is just like a trained partner almost.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly it. Mhm.
So you said that you train or you're there throughout the whole process. So when is the first time that someone should reach out to you? It's just like, oh, I just found out that I'm 6 weeks pregnant. Is that when you consider starting having a doula, or is it like kind of an average where people are like, all right, I'm looking for someone to kind of help me get through this process?
Ideally, as soon as possible. I always say, like, as soon as you find out, like, start looking into a doula. But as soon as possible, some people don't know, so we get them a little later on in their pregnancy, and some people they know right away that that's what they want. So we're able to be with them from practically the beginning. So it just depends on the person and the circumstances, but
Hmm.
we would like for you to get with the doula as soon as you can. A great way if I know finances is a concern for a lot of people when it comes to having any additional help, but particularly birth work. And so a lot of people don't know that there are numerous organizations as well as us individually who offer different programs or different discounts or things like that because we know the importance of the work that we do. So we want to make sure that that's accessible to everyone. So I say, one, if you already know that you want that, plan for it. And two, if you didn't know that you wanted or needed it and you want to have it and you just found out you're pregnant, a great thing to do is for your baby shower or people who want to send you baby gifts, have them donate to your birth fund. We invest in everything else but our birth. And I think it's time we kind of flip the script on that.
Interesting. So what's the benefits of reaching out to a doula immediately after 6 weeks versus I'm gonna make sure that because I know some women kind of wait until they're sure at least the baby is healthy, maybe 2, 3, 4 months. I
Right,
mean, I don't know because I don't have kids, but
right.
what's the benefits like 6 weeks versus like a 4 month?
So the benefit of getting in early is that one, we have more time to develop our rapport and our connection with each other. This is very sacred work. Being a part of somebody's birth experience, one of the most intense and sacred parts of a woman's life, that can be a lot. That comes with a lot of emotions and a lot of different things happening to your body and happening around you. And oftentimes we don't receive the support from like our friends and families all that much. So when you have someone who's, yes, an outsider, but is coming in with the intent to get to know you and to fully support you, it it changes your whole dynamic and your whole experience. So having that from early on, number one, not only has a mental health benefit, but it also has some physical and medical benefits. Having a doula in general, particularly for Black, Brown, and Indigenous women, it decreases your likelihood of experiencing medical trauma, medical neglect, and unfortunately, maternal death by up to 40 to 50%.
Ooh, that's scary.
Right, right. And if you want to put it plainly, it's generally because there's a witness to what's happening behind the closed doors with the doctors. You know what I'm saying? So, and a trained witness at that. So all the
Right.
medical jargon that that you are having spit out at you as you're going to these appointments and stuff like that, it's very easy to get lost within all of that, especially if you've never had a baby before or you're just not that medically versed. You don't really know what's being said to you or why these things are being done. And not many doctors take time to unpack things and explain them to you. So having a doula there, even if I'm not at the appointment, but just having me after you leave the office, you can call me and tell me everything that they said, and I can not only break it down and explain it to you, but I can let you know if that might be a red flag. We might want to, look out for that,
Mm.
or this may be something we want to get a second opinion on, or if you're just not being heard at all, I'm like, okay, we need to look at switching doctors and I can help you in that process also. So it's a bunch of different benefits to having a doula early. But regardless of when you come to us, you're going to receive the same kind of care.
Whew. That's a lot, and it's
It is.
powerful. But it's good and it's interesting. I'm not sure if you heard of the new TV show. So this is free promo. It's called Harlem. It's on Amazon Prime.
I heard of it. I
Uh
haven't watched it yet.
oh my God. Like I just started watching it yesterday, and it's an
Mm,
amazing show.
I got to check it out.
But it has one episode where the girl is in a hospital, and then the doctor's just like, all right, here's some medicine. They're like, wait a minute, you didn't like look at my friend, you didn't do it, it's the and that. And then I remember like what years ago, like Diddy situation, his
Hmm.
what ex-wife, she ended
Yes.
up passing away from malpractice and all of that. So did I say that right?
Malpractice.
Malpractice?
Yeah.
I'm like
Hmm.
malpractice.
Right.
Um right. So and it's scary because like I've been in a hospital at times and
Yeah.
it's just like, yo, doc, you ain't even touch me. Like, how do you know what's going on? Granted, I know that there's
Exactly.
trigger words and whatnot, but there's a lot of times like I think we get looked over when we're expressing to somebody. It's like, yo, you're the professional, but I'm the
Exactly.
professional at my body. I know something's not
There
right,
you go.
you know? So
Hmm.
so I know doula is not a new concept.
No,
And I
not at
guess
all.
your overview, what is the history of doulas?
So the history of doulas, it honestly goes back to like literally the beginning of time. From
Mhm.
the beginning of time, there have always been a group of women who assist other women in the pregnancy and birthing process. That's just always been how it's done. It's typically the elder women who will, help you through the journey and help you through the birthing process and the recovery process. As time went on, it became less of like an elder thing and more just a general tribe of women. So that has gone through literally every culture that's ever been a part of this land. Particularly within the United States, we weren't always called doulas. We were more so midwives because we literally did the birthing, and that's something
Mhm.
important I want to mention. There's a
I was gonna
huge
ask that
difference.
too.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my next question. So
Right.
we can go on.
Okay. There's a huge difference between a midwife and a doula. A
Mhm,
lot of times people use them interchangeably, and that's not necessarily correct. So,
mhm.
a doula is a trained professional for birth, postpartum, typically comes along with all of it, but mainly pregnancy and birth. We'll leave it there. So, with
You said
a
pregnancy, then birth for a doula?
yes, yes,
Pregnancy, birth, then postpartum. So like 3 different
yes.
phases for a doula.
Yes, so you can
Okay.
have a doula that's trained and certified in all 3. You can have a doula that's only trained and certified in birth. So there's just different ways and different kinds of doulas, but for the sake of this, situation, let's just focus on the birth and the pregnancy. So
Okay.
with the doula, they're a trained professional. They are not a medical professional, though they have training. As a doula, we have to have all the medical knowledge, but we're not medical professionals. Now, you may have a doula who's also a nurse, emergency room nurse. There are a lot of medical professionals who get into doula work, but there's still always a distinction when it comes to doing your doula work because there's, legalities involved and all of that. So,
Mhm.
generally speaking, a doula is not a medical professional, though they have most, or if not all, the medical knowledge. When it comes to a midwife actually assists in the medical process of
Okay.
pregnancy and birth. So they are your doctor. Instead of going to your doctor's office or your OB's office, you would go to your midwife, or your midwife would come to you to do your appointments. So they are a medical professional. Generally, they are trained. What is their exact certification? Um, I can't think of it off the top of my head. Sorry, but they are your medical professionals for all of your pregnancy and birth needs. So they do your blood
Okay.
work, they do all your testing, they look at the baby, they do all that stuff, and they're the one helping you deliver your baby when it comes time. I'm the physical emotional support, they're the medical support.
Got it. So is
Mhm.
it smart to say that it's beneficial to have one, or could one just stick with a midwife and the midwife assist as a doula? Or not assist as a doula, but do they do it
Also
like a
wear the hat.
midwife would do it all? Yeah.
So birth, the way we've been accustomed to it within this Western view has been a it's funny because we look at it in a straightforward way, but also in like a sectioned off way at the same time. So when
Yeah.
you go to the
Interesting.
doctor and yeah, like we go to the doctor and and you're pregnant and you got your OB, that's the person that, is like I said, doing all of your blood work, looking at all of your charts and stuff like that. And then let's say that there's something coming up like with your blood pressure. So you're a little bit on the high risk side. So you would go to a specialist and they focus on high risk pregnancy. So that's another person on your birth team. Then you have the nurses that assist your doctor. That's another couple people on your birth team. So within the traditional setting, you have a team of people. But when it comes to birth work, people don't realize it's like kind of the same thing.
Hmm.
So if I had to put it in plainly as possible, the midwife is the doctor, the doula is the nurse, and you may have your everybody's different, but you have your partner or your family member there with you, or a friend to also be there for support or whatever. So there's still a team of people that are supporting you. So no, I can't replace a midwife and a midwife can't replace me. It's
Right.
important to have the same team that you would have if you were going through like the traditional pathway, if you're going through the more holistic doula midwife pathway. So either way, you're getting a team of people that is dedicated to your care. With midwifery, it's more holistic based. Of course, if you're going the more traditional route, then you're typically interested in like a medicated birth or just being in a hospital setting in general, which is its own set of things. But yeah, you have
Gotcha.
a team.
So, so do you handle like the medical in the hospital type birth? the American type to water birth? You handle all types?
I handle it all. What is this? We're in December. I want to say, when is Mother's Day? That's May.
Yeah.
May. So in May, I was in the delivery room, in the operating room with my client who was giving birth to twins. So I'm right there still. Or if you're at home, also this year we had a few beautiful water births and home births. So I'm there regardless. Period. I don't
What's
care
your
who
what's
likes
your
it, who doesn't.
thoughts? What's your thoughts between the two different birthing styles, I guess?
Um, I have, as my own individual, I have my own preferences when it comes to birth, like, particularly because I work in this space. But just as a
I want to
support,
hear that.
okay, so me
Yeah.
personally, I prefer a natural birth, whether it be water or non-water. I prefer to birth at home. I think it's just the more connective way of doing that. Like I said, I view birth as something extremely sacred. So to be in your own space, which actually has less germs than the hospital. I know people like to
Interesting.
I know people
Really?
like to use that. Yes, and it's your germs because it's your home. So you're
Makes
not being
sense.
exposed to foreign particles
Wow.
um as you would in a hospital. The hospital is actually, ironically enough, not as sanitary as we think it is because it's a hospital and there's so many sick people. And though they have like special ventilations and stuff like that to keep things from traveling through the air, it's still air. You know what I'm saying? So, but yes, scientifically, it is actually less dirty, if you will, at home than
That's
it is
crazy.
in the hospital. So
Wow.
I just, yeah, I prefer to be at home and to be able to make my experience exactly what I want it to. I think that's one of the beauties of having a home birth is to be able to customize it to you. If you want to be playing some rap music while you chilling in the water and letting your body do its thing, we could do that. If you want to be playing some gospel music while we have a whole praise break to get this baby down and out, we'll do that. We will turn up, have a good time. We can chill out, have a good time. It can be whatever you want it to
Do
be.
whatever
You
you
can have
want. Yeah.
candles. You can have like literally whatever you want. I've heard a midwife say, I don't care if you're hanging from the chandeliers. As long as there is a safe place to catch your baby, I'm fine. Like, it's
That's
literally
funny.
about you. Yeah. So
I
that's
thought
my
of that
favorite.
song, that chandelier song, right when you said
Right.
it. Like that's where my
Yep. Pretty much.
that's where
You
my
can hang from
mind
the
went.
chandeliers.
That's
Yep.
awesome. So now I guess my question is, um, because I'm sure you've seen like some water births, and I've heard horror stories about,
Mhm.
um, what is it? What's the shot you get in the back? The
Oh, the
non-natural.
epidural.
Yeah, the
The
epidural.
epidural. Mhm.
I've heard a story before where I think a girl, she got a shot and then I think one of her legs went numb, but it didn't really help with the pain or something. She had to get birth, and it was like the scariest moment of her life. But then,
Yeah.
like, I've watched videos on YouTube because I find it so fascinating to just watch,
I
like,
love it.
these women give birth. But
Mhm.
I'm just like, it looks painful. I remember my grandmother. She scared me when I was younger. She was just
Oh.
like, "Well, if your female cramps hurt, having a baby is 10 times worse." I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
that's all she had to say." I was like,
Right.
"I'm gonna be a good girl from here on
Right.
out."
Ain't nothing happening.
Right. I'm gonna be
Mhm.
very selective when that time comes. And hey, I got to
Okay.
this part because of that. Like that was trauma, I
Right.
guess, at a
Right.
young age. So you know about the epidural, and people,
Mhm.
they take it because they want to minimize pain. But then yet
Right.
I'll watch these YouTube videos and it's like these women look like they're in so much pain. But I hear that water births help with the pain. So like tell me more about your process in taking women through that experience, I guess, to make it less painful. Is it possible to be less painful? You're still gonna deal with pain in general. Like, tell me more about that process for somebody that don't really know.
So, it's interesting that you said, that kind of traumatized you because we have a very a thing that we do, particularly like within our culture of like traumatizing people into conformism. Like, we will tell you the absolute horror stories so that you can go and do what we think is the best thing for you to do.
Yeah.
That may not be the case, and nothing is one way for anybody. So when it comes to the epidural, yes, it can be very scary. At the end of the day, it's a foreign substance entering your body, doing things and altering your body at the end of the day. So that comes with its own set of, risks and side effects. But some people don't have bad reactions to it. And some people are like grateful for the epidural. So it just depends on the person. But when it comes to a water birth, yes, it is effective in lessening the pain that you experience. But I want to also say that birth does not have to be painful.
Really?
It does not.
Explain that. You got to go over that part.
Yeah. So birth does not have to be painful. Birth is it's a culmination of so many different things. So I know I'm about to say this and I understand the contradiction, but birth is the closest a human being can come to death without actually dying. So
Okay.
with that, we have this idea in our mind that in order to go through something like that, it has to be absolutely painful, right? And then we take on the stories from, mom,
Other
sister,
people, yeah.
grandma, and that's all swarming in our heads. And at the end of the day, birth is a physical, mental, and emotional journey that you go on. So when you come into your birth with all those things already in your mind, that helps determine what your experience as far as your physical experience is going to be. You have it in your mind already that it's going to be painful. So you're bracing yourself for that pain. And then embracing yourself for that pain, your body's physically clenching and your body isn't able to do what it needs to do because you're trying to fight it. You're
Right.
bracing yourself against your body. So when it comes to what I love about water is it literally strips all of that away. When you get into that water, not only does it take the weight off your body, being pregnant, you're carrying some extra weight, you're carrying a whole human being, love that. But then it also, as a result, relaxes your muscles, relaxes your tissue so that you can breathe a little bit more. You're able to have buoyancy within the water. So one thing we like to do is like figure eights with your hips. So you're just holding on to the sides and you're literally just letting your body just, rock back and forth. So it's able to get you into this really calm, serene state, which is where we want you. So your body can be fully relaxed, loose, and do what it needs to do. Because your body is its own mechanism. It knows how to give birth. You don't think you know how to give birth, but your body knows. So when we listen to the body instead of trying to impose how we think things should go in a situation like that, you'll be so surprised at how differently things go. I've been at a birth where it takes literally 3 hours max. Done. I've been in a birth where I've been with my client for 2-3 days. It just depends.
Wow. In labor?
So yes. Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
But is that in labor with pain or labor with not
it's
as
different.
much pain, I guess?
It's different
Okay.
for everybody. For instance, with my client who had the twins, we were at the hospital for I think about 3 days. She had the babies about 24 hours in, but that's also not uncommon or unnatural because the body, like I said, it's a process. So there is 5 stages of labor, just labor in itself. So when you have early labor, which is the very beginning, and you don't always go into labor through your water breaking. I know we see that in movies and we're like, oh my God, my water broke. I gotta go to the hospital. No, that's not a thing.
Okay.
But when
It would
when
fool
you
me.
first right. When you first go into labor, you could go into labor by having contractions. You could go into labor by your water breaking. You could go into labor through what they call a bloody show, which is a lot of things. That's another show. But there's different ways to go into labor. So when you're in that early labor part, that's your body just revving up, getting ready. Like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. Cool. Let me where are the keys? Like that's what your body's doing internally. It's gathering everything it needs to prepare to take this huge journey and to help you push this baby out.
Hmm.
That can last a few hours. That can last a couple days. Just the early labor
Gotcha.
part. So then your body moves into more of an active labor, and that's when the contractions are getting stronger and your body's like physically working to get this baby ready to come out, and that could take a few hours. That we have our guidelines as to like what we're comfortable with you staying within, and it
Right.
tends to be a little more extended than the hospital, because at the end of the day, as the hospital is a place of business, right? um
Hmm.
they want you in and out as quickly as possible, because that's a bed for somebody else, and that bed is money.
Right.
There's several amazing documentaries on like the business of birth. The business of being born is one of them, by Ricky Lake.
The
Amazing.
business of being born.
Yes, it's
I'm gonna have
it
to
was
check that
done.
out.
Yeah, it was done by Ricky Lake. She, oh, love her. That's an amazing documentary. I always recommend that one. But it's a business, so they want you in and out as fast as possible. But what happens with that is, because they're trying to have this high turnover rate, they're not listening to your body. They're not trying to go at the speed in which your body is ready to do this. They want you on a specific timetable that fits them. So if you're not progressing as much as they would like within a small window of time, relatively, then okay, we need to start doing some interventions. We need to give you this, we need to give you that. Oh no, the baby's in distress. Now we got to rush to the OR. Like, it becomes a cascading event of interventions, and that is where we end up having a lot of the maternal mortality issues and
Oh man.
side effects and things like that. But in general, I love the ease and the peace that you get with a home birth or a water birth. You feel more control of your body, and like it's your experience, your timing. When your body's ready, it will do this, and you don't have the added pressure of feeling like you're being watched, or you can't do this or you can't do that, or you're restricted, or everybody's looking at you and coming in trying to talk to you. It's about peace, and that I just that's my favorite thing ever, is to watch a woman go through a process like that and be fully in herself, like primal womanhood. It's just the most beautiful
Gotcha.
thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I thought like
hmm
specifically like speeds up the process a little. Is
it
that true?
can it can because it
Okay.
relaxes your body so much. um Anytime the body is tense, it can't do necessarily what it needs to do, especially with trying to get something out. So the looser and more relaxed your body is, the better. So with the water being a certain temperature at all times, it keeps the pressure off your body. It allows you to deal with the pain a whole lot better, and so you're not bracing yourself anymore. You're just and your
Relax.
body
Yeah.
can all do what it needs to. So it can speed up labor for a lot of people.
Okay. Now can you correct
hmm
this for me? Like, granted, I've seen movies, and
hmm
it's like usually like slavery or even women in Africa, they'll have babies in the water, but they're typically standing up. Whereas when I watch
hmm
Waterverse on YouTube, they're still kind of like sitting down. Like,
hmm
is there a right or wrong? Is it just because that was that's their situation, that's how they're supposed to do it, or is the position still like you're sitting down in the water?
So the ideal position to give birth is going with gravity, not against it. The way we've gotten to this position that we give birth in today, this on your back, that has its own root in slavery and racism. Um, So that came from a man who has now been dubbed the father of modern gynecology, and he was a slave owner. And at this time, there was no such thing as anesthesia or pain medicine like that. So all of the things that he invented and developed, as far as medical procedures go, were done on enslaved women while other enslaved women held them down. Um, so this position was more so for access and how do I say this, PG? Viewing, viewing. It has nothing to do with the anatomy of the body at all. If anything, it actually forces an extra step on the woman during the birthing process. So if a person is standing up and they're in labor, gravity, going with gravity, something inside coming out, it can fall, right? And the body being made to be upright is going to help push that baby down. If I'm laying on my back, I'm having to not just push out or down, I'm having to push out, and this is my pelvic bone, out, up, and out. Does that make sense? So it's an
Hmm.
extra step. That pushing up, that doesn't happen if I'm standing up or if I'm squatting or if I
So you
have
got the baby pretty
one
much
leg.
doing that. Like
Exactly. You're putting a whole extra step on yourself, the baby. The baby's like, wait a minute, like this don't seem like the exit. Like what's
right.
happening here?
Wow.
So yeah, it creates so much extra strain on the body. And it's only done that way because the father of gynecology said this is how you have a baby. So
But they still sit that way in the swimming pools. They still like sitting back. They're
yeah.
not standing up. So why is that?
So women can you can give birth in any position that feels comfortable to you. Ideally, we would
Okay.
like you to go with gravity. But if
And
you're
stand up,
just
right?
right, right,
Okay.
standing up, squatting, one leg up, you can literally give birth in any position. You can give birth lying down with your on your side with your legs up. It's so many different with
Wow.
positions you can give birth. But what you see is that's generally a woman who's just more comfortable just in that particular position. But I've seen women in the water who get on all fours. I've seen and they have the baby on all fours. The baby comes out, we're behind them. Baby comes out, midwife passes the baby through their legs, and the woman sits back and has her baby on her chest. So there's like the midwife said, you could literally swing from the chandeliers. And as long as we can catch your baby safely, that's all that matters.
Gotcha. So have you
Hmm.
ran into because I know like you said that the process doesn't have to be painful. What about
Hmm.
age when it comes to women? Because we typically hear and like women when you hit the age 35, it becomes high risk after that. But then with medicine nowadays, they're like so much more is possible. And I don't know if they're talking about like the insertion IVF like process, where you
Hmm.
insert the sperm and the egg, or different things like that. Or if they're just saying like because it's advanced, but you doing the natural route, what are your thoughts
Hmm.
on so many people saying that?
So I just there's a level of risk regardless when it comes to
Hmm.
birth for anyone. Um Now when you factor in things like age and your health conditions and all of those things, that is what adds to your risk factor. So you hear a person say, "Oh, I'm high risk." That could be because they have like high blood pressure. That could be because they are over a certain age in their older years. That could be because the baby, like the pregnancy itself, is causing all of these changes within their body, and they're kind of needing to be watched a little bit more. But when it comes to home birth and water birth especially, we are very particular about who we guide to those decisions. The decision is always yours. But when it comes to our professional advice, we are going to make sure you have all the information to make the best and safest decision for you and your baby. So if you really want to have a home birth, really want to have a water birth, but your doctors are saying that you're high risk, we will evaluate what that high risk situation is and see if you would be a good candidate for a home birth or a water birth. Because particularly with water, you're so open to so many different things. We want to make sure that your risk of like infection or hemorrhaging and things like that isn't going to be heavily impacted. So we're going to assess the same way a doctor would say, but ours is more on what's best for you and not necessarily what's best to cover myself. I could care
Yeah.
less. Like, this is your experience. We have insurance for things like that. But what is best for you and your baby? And we may not, let's say we don't agree. Like, I don't think you should do a water birth, but you are really intent on it and you want to do it. I will still support you. There are things we're going to have to do to, in that discussion, but I'm going to still support you. Um, I think we've gotten so far away from trusting a woman in her body. Like, it's as if
Yeah.
women don't know how to have babies anymore. And it's only because we've been told that we don't know how to have babies. We've been told that we have to be in a hospital and they're the only people who know what to do in a situation like this. And that
Which
birth
ultimately
is,
they study medicine.
yes, and
Yeah.
that birth is just like this scary medical event. And it's not medical at all. Like, it's unless you have a more high risk and serious situation, it's not medical at all. It's really not. It's something that is deeply intuitive, deeply sacred, and should be given the respect and space as such. When we try to control it, that's when we have all these things going crazy. I've seen women who doctors said, like written them off, and they go have a baby just fine. You know what I'm saying? When you don't have the imposition of everybody's opinion and thoughts and all of that being burdened on you, it's amazing how the body responds. So I've seen it all, and that's what I love about this work is that regardless of what your prior experiences are, this allows for a clean slate. Like, I've had women who have given birth and had horrible experiences, let's just say in the hospital. And this time they decided to do either an unmedicated birth still in the hospital or a home birth. And with either one, their experience is just so different. They leave not having nearly as much medical trauma from, all the stuff going on, but they also leave empowered and confident, and they know
Hmm.
how to now advocate for themselves when it comes to being in these medical spaces. And that's the rewarding part for me. Regardless of what you choose, I love watching a woman come into herself, and I'm a very observant person, and I literally get to see the change in a woman when she goes
Energy is
from
everything.
just being herself, right? When
Hmm.
she goes from it just being her to her and her child. Like, there's your face and your whole body, like
Wow.
everything changes. And I cry every single time, every
Aw.
single birth, every single
Aw, that's
birth.
so
I don't care if
cute.
I'm watching it online. I'm still gonna
Yeah, I ain't
cry
gonna lie.
every
I'm
single
the same
time.
way. Like, I'm very
Right.
sensitive. I watch it on YouTube, and maybe it's the
Yep.
music. But, she's always crying, so I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm always in tears
Every
too.
single time. Never
So the
changes.
point is, like, that whole process, obviously, whether you're risky or not, like, you're
Yeah.
there to help
Absolutely.
interpret that to the mother.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what about now I know every situation is different. Do you typically have you had to walk women through the process of C-sections? Or sometimes the doctors are jumping ahead too fast when they're like, hey, let's just go straight to C-section. Like, how do you handle
That
those situations?
happens all the time, sadly, which is how or why rather our maternal death rate is so high currently. So when you are in a traditional birth setting, typically gone to the hospital, they do all of these checks on you, these vaginal checks, and they're like, oh, okay, this is where you are within your labor process. We want you to be here within this time frame. So to get you there, we're gonna give you pitocin, or we're gonna try to stretch your cervix out. We're gonna do all of these things. And a woman who, one, is in pain, two, maybe never had a baby before, she's, just kind of like, okay, whatever you think is best, right? So all of this stuff is being done to her, the baby, the body, and then all of a sudden, oh no, baby's in distress. Their heart rate is skyrocketing, or it's plummeting. We need to hurry up and get you into surgery. How do we get there? From all of these interventions that we're introducing to the body. So it's easy to fall into the flow that the hospital has set up. And I don't mean to demonize the hospital setting,
Hospitals.
because it's necessary when it's
Right.
necessary, right? But when it comes to birth, there is a way that they do things that they try to standardize birth, and you can't do that. You just can't.
Because everyone's different.
Everyone's different, and birth is so spontaneous. So there's no way to standardize it. And when you try, that's when you start having all of these issues, right? But particularly for Black, Brown, and Indigenous women, you have situations where not only am I being introduced to all of these interventions, but I'm also being induced to an environment that does not value me, that does not value my life. And then I'm also being introduced to people who don't necessarily value me and my life. You see a lot of deeply rooted racism in the medical field. So like it's literally taught in their books. So one of the things that causes a
What?
lot of issues, one of the things that causes a lot of issues when it comes to particularly birth in the hospital setting is not being believed. So like pain, like let's say I'm in labor right now, and I'm like, whew, I'm like this, and they ask me, what's my pain level? And I tell them, I don't know, I think I'm like at an 8 or 9. Would you believe that I'm at an 8 or 9?
No.
No,
Because in
right?
there, I hate that question because I'm like, what are we
Exactly.
measuring this on? Like 10? Am I supposed to be dead? Like,
Exactly.
I hate those
So you
measurements so bad.
exactly. So you have that. I tell you I'm at a 9. You're like, you're not really acting like it. Or what's literally in medical textbooks is that Black people have thicker skin, therefore we don't experience pain the same way, because the nerve endings and our thicker skin makes pain more dull, if you will. That's literally what they're taught in medical school.
Mm.
So here you are as a physician, and you have this Black patient, Black woman at that, telling you she's in excruciating pain and something doesn't feel right. I can't explain it, but something doesn't feel right. My body, I don't know what's happening. Because of your training, and because you're also taught that Black people are typically drug seeking, like just wanting
Oof.
medication so that we can get high, or whatever the case may be.
Which those numbers are so skewed when you really look at different cultures.
Exactly. So all of that, like you have all of that going into what's supposed to be like one of the most beautiful experiences of your life. That's what you're walking into.
Which is probably why it's beneficial if you're a Black woman to even get a doula that is Black as well to
I
help
believe it's not
understand that.
even, I hate this idea that having a doula is a luxury. It's really not. It's a
Necessity.
necessity.
Sounds
And
like it.
especially for Black women. especially for Black women. It is a necessity because it literally could be, and I hate to be so drastic, but it can literally be life or death for you as a Black woman. Um, of course, we love when our clients or their partner or their families are educated and they know how to advocate for themselves in these spaces. We love it. That's part of what we do during our time here. I'm not just your doula, I'm your partner's doula. I want to get to know, the people that are going to be your support system so that we can all work together. But that does not substitute having a doula.
Mm.
All respect to the grandmas, all respect to the moms, most respect and love. But they do not
Some of them
substitute
bring on
for a
extra
doula.
stress too.
I've
So
had
that go.
several situations with my clients and I'm like, okay, so what's the code word? And that lets me know that, okay, this person needs to leave and I will get them out of your space. So yeah, they
Wow.
definitely can add another layer of complication to things sometimes.
So that actually goes into my next question. Like, how do you
Mhm.
handle the partners when someone is pregnant from the beginning to the end?
Yeah. So as a partner, most of the time they, don't really have any more information than the client themselves. So we're all learning together, right? So we'll be doing different things, whether we're learning about the birthing process itself, whether we're learning about the body, whether we're learning about the baby and the things baby is going to need after or during. It's just a full learning process. So if you have questions or you're like, hey, Shay, so she was acting a little off today. I don't know. Is this something I need to look out? Like literally call me for anything. Same as the client. I've had partners that really want to be involved and they don't want to make the person who's giving birth like uncomfortable or uneasy, so they're trying to really learn ways to support, whether it be physically, like things that they can do physically for their body to help them feel better, or whether it's just knowing what to look out for certain things. So I've had it all and I absolutely love working with partners. It's the best thing when you have a really genuine supportive partner and they are right there by your side. It's hilarious, it's beautiful, it's fun. And so I'm doing absolutely everything that the partner needs as well as my client. Whatever questions they have, whatever situations pop up, I'm just as much there for them as I am the client.
I also run into like women that say that they have a partner there, but the partner is not really supportive as well.
There.
Like
Yeah,
I've known people is like I'm pregnant, but I had a baby. We have a baby now, but I don't really feel
right,
like he was there.
right.
And then how do you handle situations like that? Or have you even ran into those as well?
I have. And that's one of the questions that I asked during our initial meetings with my clients. I asked what the relationship status is. And it's not to be nosy. It's just so that I can know the dynamic of the situation at hand. Because having a baby can be so complex, like within terms of relationships. Um, Sometimes, it's great. Everybody's so excited and it can bring two people who love each other closer together. But when you have maybe somebody who isn't necessarily ready for that, it can be strenuous. So I just want to make sure that I'm aware of not only the situation that I'm coming into, but what situation or circumstance rather are you existing in during this time, so that I can be aware of what your potential mental state is. Um, I've had clients who the partner isn't active or isn't present, um, and it's no different in terms of the care that I give them. If anything, I'm just bugging them a little bit more, like I'm calling them more often and just checking up on them more often. But it does not change the level of care that they get from me whatsoever. And it's selfishly good for me in terms of like I get to truly just like be there with them throughout the whole thing. Like I had a client who had to have a C-section and I got to be in the operating room next to her. So, and hand her her baby. So that was just
Wow.
amazing. So I look at it as an honor to step into that space for them, and it's it's just a beautiful, beautiful experience to have, and I'm grateful that my clients trust me.
Now, how does that go into like all of this? Even single, without any
Yeah.
partner or a complicated partner, and then you have or even support a partner. Then you have postpartum. I
Uh-huh.
hear a lot of stories where it's just like women are really going through it, and obviously they don't have a doula.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a difference, but like, how long do you stay around with someone in postpartum, and how do you control that? Because I'm pretty sure it's a lot of emotions going up and down because you're experiencing a new
Yeah.
life now.
Yeah. So let's say a client comes on with me and they just want a birth doula. So as a birth doula, I will stay with you um for about a week to 2 weeks after, just to make sure that you're healing well and all of that stuff. Now, if a client wants a full spectrum doula, which is birth and postpartum, then I'm with you as long as you want me around. Postpartum isn't a set period. People like to say like 6 months, but postpartum is forever after you have a baby. Having a child does sometimes isn't like necessarily easier as time goes on. It gets a little more complicated depending on the child and depending on the circumstances that you're or the environment that you're in, and you're needing more help as things as the child gets older. So postpartum period is forever. So at any point that you need me, I'm here. Postpartum support is just so important. It allows us, like, if you think about it, any other major medical situation that happens to our bodies, what do we get? Like, if I had surgery on my knee today, what would be a order that my doctor would give me for the following few months? Rehab, right?
Yeah, rehab, physical therapy, rest.
Right.
Gradually get into the process until you can do everything normal again. Because I had my Achilles issue this year, so yeah,
Now, what do we say when we have a baby?
nothing.
Oh, give it 5 to 6 weeks to have sex, and then after that you can kind of go back to work whenever you want to.
Yeah.
You can resume your normal activities. What what
Mm.
I have a hole the size of like a small dinner plate in my womb,
Woo! That
and
just sounds painful.
there's nothing that I need to do to take care of my body, to re-strengthen my body. That's insane to me. So there's so much that happens in the postpartum period that needs
Mhm.
to happen that doesn't. And so being a postpartum doula, I can continue to tend to you. I can help your body close itself back up. I can make sure your mind is in the right place it needs to be. As a perinatal mental health specialist, that is one of the major things I'm looking out for. What's your mental state right now? How are we doing? It's very easy for a person to slip into postpartum depression. Your body's changing so much. All of these hormones are drastically dropping and shifting, and your body's just trying really hard to readjust. So I can be on the lookout for that. I can be on the lookout for any signs of like postpartum hemorrhage or anything that should be of concern, like internally. I can be mindful of that with you also. I'm also here for the baby. Like it's so much benefit to making sure you have postpartum support. And again, no knock to the grandmas and the aunties and the sisters,
Bring on more
but
stress sometimes again.
right. But, this is just another particular instance where having someone who is trained and specializes in this is just really, really crucial and important. But in addition to having the family support, that's always important.
Yeah, always
But when
beneficial.
mom or when the parents are ready, like
Yeah.
I'm very big on that. Like, give them space, let them adjust to life with this baby, and then we can start doing the visits and stuff like that. But having a postpartum doula, it can literally change your experience and your outlook on what it is to give birth and have a newborn. Because oftentimes the stories we hear is just, oh, it's so stressful. Oh my God, it seems very dreadful. And
Right.
that is a result of not having the support that we need and that we're supposed to have. Like this is
Mhm.
a I can't even say cultural because it's all cultures, but it's the human way to be
Yeah.
surrounded by your tribe, your community during an event like this. And I think the sooner we return to that, the sooner we'll see the drop in maternal mortality rates and the drop in all of these issues that are just plaguing the birth community right now. So that's the goal. That's the focus.
And I think, and I don't want to go dark here, but I think
Okay.
that's why sometimes you have the women who end up, I mean, there's been stories of mothers murdering their kids and all kind of
Yeah.
different things going on. And
Yeah.
it's crazy with our society. Like, I'm big on mental health.
Absolutely.
And you have to, like, I get people are in extreme situations where you kind of got to remove them from the public so that they don't harm themselves or someone else.
Mhm.
I get that, but the understanding side of me is like, people are going through stuff. So when you hear mothers, people are like, "Oh, she was crazy," or "How could you do that to the kids?" or
No.
how could you leave yourself?" And I mean,
No.
how could you leave kids behind? I'm just like, I don't understand mental health,
And
and
how she got there.
right,
Like, that particularly sounds like postpartum psychosis,
oof,
and that is a very scary place to be in. And oftentimes when they're in that situation, they see what they're trying to do or what they're doing as the best thing for their child.
yeah,
Either it's best for me to take myself away because I'm not good for my kids, or I have to protect my kids and I have to keep them safe. And the best way to do that is to take them away from whatever the danger is. So understanding the mind of a person going through something like that is really important as a society, to not just place these misguided judgments on people, especially if you have no understanding of how the brain or the mind works. Because that's no walk in the park for anyone. But that is also just why it's so important to have these different structures in place to be there at every turn. Because once you have a baby, do you know the next time you go see a doctor? Like 6 to 8 weeks. Huh? I just I just gave life to a human being. And the next time you want to see me and do a checkup of my body is 6 to 8 weeks. That's insane. That's
hmm,
absolutely insane. How much is missed?
a
How many
lot.
symptoms are missed during that 6 to 8 weeks that a person is not being seen? And then
Not to
there's not that's
mention,
not
some
even
people don't
include
go see a mental health doctor.
exactly. I was just about to say that. Not to mention the fact that a mental health evaluation typically isn't even included in that. And if it is, it's very vague and it's not done by a mental health professional
Yeah.
that knows what they're looking for.
Mm.
So we can't continue to put, all of this heat on these people who are having these mental breaks if we're not going to put the heat on the people who are supposed to be taking care of them.
Mhm.
So we got to shift that blame because it's not the sick person's fault. It's
Yeah.
it's just not. So once we can do a better job at taking care of each other as a society, then we can start having some conversations about, judgment and stuff like that. But I personally don't want to hear it until we're where we need to be. That's just
Man, I'm gonna have to quote you
how
on
I
that one.
feel.
We gotta shift the blame. So I guess on the entrepreneur side, my last question is,
Mhm.
well, first, can someone become a doula part time?
Yes, you can do doula work in whatever way that's best for you. There are people who are like teachers, and so during the summers when they mainly do their doula work, you anybody can definitely become a doula. But I will say it is mentally, physically, and emotionally draining. You are exposed to a lot of trauma often, and it's just not for the faint of heart. So if you don't have like a deep, genuine passion for this work, then you may want to explore some other avenues. But it it's definitely fulfilling if you have that deep passion for it. It's something I couldn't imagine doing anything else, honestly.
Hmm. So you can work a full
Mhm.
time job and still be a doula on the
Absolutely.
side.
You can have a full career as a doula, a full brand as a doula, because there's so many different things. Everything is connected to the beginning of life. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
there's so many different ways you can branch off and different ways you can scale your business and your brand.
Hmm.
And there's a ton of room to grow within
Hmm.
this industry. So it's definitely a good long term space to be in if you want to.
Well, I guess what I mean is like, could somebody be working a different type of full time job and like,
Oh
hey, I want
yeah,
to be a part time doula, and as I get my clientele up,
absolutely.
okay, gotcha.
Absolutely. You
And
could
how
work
long is
with
the
the
process?
agency.
Okay.
It's different depending on where you do your training and how. But generally to go through the training and then to acquire your certification requirements, let's say like 6 months to a year, depending.
Hmm.
And that's just to get like certified and everything. But there are some people who don't get certified and go more of a traditional route. Like being a birth worker has been a part of their family for generations. So they learn traditionally and they follow in that path. So there's different avenues and different ways and types of doulas. But in a more trained sense, then yes, it takes about 6 months to a year.
Gotcha. And do you mentor or teach at all?
I've been told that I need to. So I'm currently working
Yeah,
on
definitely.
a mentor program. So I'm working on that. That's definitely coming. I love talking to people and sharing what I know. So it's kind of dope. Like somebody wants to learn from me. But I'm definitely grateful and humbled by that. So I'm working on it. I hear the people and I'm working on it.
Okay. And how does everyone get in contact with you?
You can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at a goddess garden birth. You can head over to my website at a goddessgardenbirth.com. And you can get in contact with me through the message form on my site. You can take a look around. Feel free and take a look around on my social media. If you have questions, always drop them in the comments. I'm happy to answer as soon as I can.
Amazing. Well, Shayla, thank you so much for giving me your time today. And
Thank
man, like you
you.
really gave a wealth of knowledge. So I really hope that this provide value to, all the different women that listen, even the men,
Absolutely.
anyone to listen. So, all right, y'all. Well, again, this is your girl, Coach Danny Renee, the Millennial Network. See, I can't even talk today, y'all.
It's okay.
But remember, your network is your net worth. Till next
Mhm.
time.